5. So, like, I'd say the Titans right now maybe have like a 40 to 45% chance, maybe a 50% chance they land D-Hop. That's really as high as I'm willing to go before he signs. Welcome into the Hot Read Podcast for Friday, July the 14th. I'm your host, Easton Freeze, Director of Published Content here at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. We're also brought to you by the 440 Podcast Network. And I'm joined, as always, by producer JT. JT, how are you?
I'm good. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. That's all. Nothing
else
to report.
I really have nothing else going on in my life right now. Like,
no, that's fair enough. We got a buddy of ours going out of town, or not going out of town, leaving town. After this week, so we're gonna have a little poker night tonight. Looking forward to that.
We are,
just
and I'm gonna win.
The ubiquitous update in our lives that people could care less about, I'm sure. But what else is there to talk about? Hey, by the way, I should have started with this. Sorry for those that were expecting an AFC South roundup episode today, which we were promising. That was the plan, and then we have guests lined up. They have things come up. We have to reschedule. No big deal. We're gonna have both our Texans and Jaguars guests, at least one of them on next week, maybe Monday, maybe Thursday. We're going to get them both in before training camp. I'm positive about that. Like, I've communicated with them. We are planning on doing it when TBD. It's either going to be this next Monday or Thursday or the next Monday. One of those three. We're going to get those two shows in there, because then after that, it's training camp time. I mean, not this upcoming Thursday or Friday, but the following Friday, we're talking training camp.
12 days. Yeah.
We're there. Right. 12 days sneaking up on us, but I am not complaining. Ready for us to quit having to really scrape the bottom of the barrel, really, for content. I mean, that's what July is. We were talking about how, I think as we are recording this on Thursday, 104.5 is drafting their top villains in sports on live radio right now, which is funny and easy to make fun of them for, but also, like, what are you going to talk about? Like, at least they're trying to be creative, so I really can't knock them for that, I suppose. But we do have a couple things to do today. We'll get into those. I think things worth talking about. What do we not want to do on this show, JT? We're not here to waste people's time, right? That's not what we're here to do. So we're not going to just ramble on for an hour about things that don't matter. We'll talk about what we think are topics worth discussing, and then we'll get on out of here. And then on Monday, we'll have some more substantive discussion, I'd imagine. But one thing I wanted to bring, actually two things I want to bring up before we talk about some Titans news and get out of here. I don't know if you paid attention at all yesterday on the slowest day in sports on Wednesday. That is, we're recording on Thursday, obviously. Slow for sure, but you have the ESPYs going on. Shout out Chiefsaholic for getting mentioned on national television, for robbing banks to get to go to Chiefs games. Very, very funny content by Pat McAfee there. Go check out. There's a number of clips from that show that were very funny. He was my favorite joke last night. I don't know if you caught any of this, but when he was talking about the Damar Hamlin situation, which you were in attendance for, and he was talking very somberly about how we all witnessed something terrifying, and then it turned into something incredible. And we watched, a man's life be lost and then saved on the field. And everybody's, the guys on the broadcast, Joe Buck is trying to vamp and be as sensitive as possible. And then Skip Bayless is like, get that dead body off the field. We've got playoff implications. And he said, by the way, that tweet is still up. Hashtag delete the tweet, Skip. Come on. So that was the best joke of that night, in my opinion. There was some sports going on. A couple, if you're in the Nashville media market and care anything about soccer, a couple of rough soccer matches last night. Team USA in the Gold Cup, the CONCACAF Gold Cup, go down in an upset to Panama. A stinker goes to extra, or not. It goes to extra time and then goes to PKs, and they lose in sudden death. Not great. It was the semifinals, but then even worse than that, I don't know if you've caught wind of anything that went on at Geodis Park last night, JT. Apparently, Murphy's Law was in full effect. Anything that could go wrong did. Did you hear anything about this?
No, but I did not. But I was thinking about going last night, and now after I'm about to get my reason why I shouldn't have gone.
The bullet. Yeah.
Okay,
you dodged the bullet. They were playing Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia Union. At home in Nashville. They lost either 2-0 or 3-0. It was a shutout. Apparently Nashville had a number. They came extremely close to scoring like 4 or 5 times and didn't. A lot of balls off the crossbars, the crossbar and the upright. And 3 red cards were handed out, 3 penalties, one of which was called back. The refs were losing control. There was some brawling going on. The supporters section was throwing things at fans were throwing things at the players on the field and making utter fools of themselves. Apparently the officiating itself was unspeakably bad. I've not heard a single good thing. Apparently it was a total bleep show all night long. And so I had to fire the tweet off this morning. Like, hey, how was things at Geodis Park last night? Everybody have a good time? What's going on? Apparently not great. Oh, speaking of not great, another very frivolous July topic I want to bring up. JT, I know you saw I tweeted like a week ago about Dennis Daley. There was that brief trend on Twitter. People were like, say a nice thing about X. And in sports, it was like, say a nice thing about this player, about this coach, about this team. And so I just jumped on the bandwagon. Why not? In bed one night at 10 p.m., I go and find a picture of Dennis Daley online. I'm like, hey, say something nice about this football player. And then pin that picture of the tweet. And I got like 150 responses to it. People were don't know if you know this. People are very emotional when it comes to Dennis. They have strong opinions on Dennis Daley. And I went so far as to document who said what, because I wanted to just share some of the nice things that people had to come up with or managed to come up with about Dennis Daley. So that we could, we like to stay positive on this show, right? We want to spread positivity. And these are all technically nice things about Dennis Daley that I wanted to share with folks. So a couple of unique responses. These were all said by just one person. Somebody said that he helped get Todd Downing fired. Somebody said that they hope he finds a job with a team that they hate. Somebody said that they really enjoyed him when he was on the bench. Maybe my favorite, most intelligent answer from @dread_Garcia. He said that Dennis Daley was instrumental in Arden Key's late season highlights that led to him becoming a Titan. Like that. That was smart. Somebody said 74 sacks allowed in college for Dennis Daley. Less than that in Tennessee. So that's growth, technically. Somebody said that they'll never forget him. Somebody said that he played better than I would have, which is eminently true. Somebody said that he's a top 5,000 player in the NFL this century. Somebody said that of all the people to ever be a Titan, he sure was one of them, which is a fact. Somebody said that, well, he did a good job somebody said he won't be the scapegoat anymore when this offensive line is just as bad this year, which is a take. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the actual news segment. Somebody said that he was able to block out the noise, which is true. I mean, he got out there every week. He did not listen to the droves of fans and media constantly talking about how horrendous he was. Somebody said that he seemed like a nice guy. I mean, I spoke to him in the locker room. Perfectly nice guy. Unfortunate ball player, but nice fella. Somebody said that he played for the Titans, which is also a fact. And then somebody said that his taxes probably paid a teacher or firefighter salary, which is definitely true. 2 people said that he played for the Gamecocks, one of which was you, JT. Go Cox.
Go Cox.
Somebody said that his name is alliterative, which is true. I don't know if it's a compliment. 2 people said he never got in trouble, which is true. 3 people said that he could be an elite bullfighter, which is not the nicest thing to say, I suppose. Somebody said that he's not Isaiah Wilson. 4 people said that, which that's true. Could always be worse. 4 people said that he made it to the NFL. 4 said that he helped get the 11th pick in the draft, which is true. 4 people said that he's a great money guy, making a lot of money for not a lot of skill, for sure. 5 people said that he did his best. He really tried out there. 10 people said that he was reliably available, which is probably the most correct, nice thing you can say for all of his faults. And boy, oh boy, were there many. He was out there all the time. I don't know if maybe fans were hoping he would be one of, like, if somebody has to get hurt on this team, please, God, let it be Dennis Daley. But never did. Very durable guy, resilient guy. 12 people said no. They refused to say something nice. 12 people said that he helped defenders pad their stats, which is definitely true. 12 people said that he's a good looking fella and looks the part out there. Sure looks like a tackle. No doubt. He looks the part. Just does not look the part when he's trying to do the part. 13 people said that they cannot say something nice. And then 17 people said that they are happy he is no longer a Titan. I found that funny. Those are good answers, I think, JT. Those are some solid responses. And with that, I've successfully vamped about 10 minutes of the show. Let's spend another 10 minutes talking about some Titans news and then get out of here. What do you say?
Yeah, sounds good with me.
All right, so we got to start with D-Hop, right? That's the number one topic of the day. So if you would not mind, I think the biggest thing came out yesterday, some Vegas movement on the D-Hop front.
Yes, so the lines yesterday, which by the way, I found out that you cannot place any. These are not available in the Tennessee area. So on all the sports books, yeah, you cannot bet on this.
You can see the line. You may not in the state of Tennessee put down your hard-earned money on this.
I think that was the thing. Most people are like, where are you seeing this? And it's because it's just not available in Tennessee. It's not even listed on the sports books. But DeAndre Hopkins odds of where he was going to sign on a lot of the sports books, most notably DraftKings, went skyrocketing up. Or down, I should say, to down, minus 300 as the clear favorite.
From where?
I believe it was
500, right? Plus 500?
Yes, plus 500.
So about an 800-point swing. That's overnight is a big deal. And a lot of people making a lot has been made of this. What are your thoughts? I kind of like it's interesting for sure. I think it is particularly interesting because it comes directly on the heels of the next day after we saw Michael Lombardi on the GM Shuffle, which is on the DraftKings network where they create sports content in order to promote their sports book. He goes on and has that semi-viral clip that went around Twitter earlier this week about how he thinks that the Titans are probably the most likely landing spot for D-Hop at this point because they've been the most aggressive. He thinks that's where he's going to find the most money if that's what he's most interested in. And Mike Vrabel has been like really bought into the circumstances. So I kind of see it as a direct like response, like a cause and effect to there. Do you think that there's more to it than that?
I personally no. I think we've seen a lot of this. I think this is nothing to read into more than a business looking to make more money. I think we've seen this. We've honestly seen this more and more. You can go back to I was reading into a story on the NBA draft with a popular NBA insider, Shams, who kind of put out there that not Brandon Miller, but Scoot Henderson was now the clear front-running favorite to be the second overall pick to the Charlotte Hornets. And so FanDuel
had the day of the draft, right? I think that was the day of the draft.
Lines drastically changed, and he ended up and lo and behold, it was Brandon Miller the entire time. And if there's more people dig into it, you find out that Shams has a show on FanDuel TV. It's contracted
by them.
Exactly. And
so it's kind of sus there. Like, where's the line between reporter and content creator? And when you're working for the sports book,
I don't think Michael Lombardi, this is not like a report or anything. He was just asked a clear question, but you can draw the parallels. You can read through that. And at the end of the day, it's a business trying to make money. Now, personally, if you're looking to bet this, I would never bet any like line like this of where a player should go or anything like that.
I wouldn't bet where a player is going to go just in general, because with smart sports betting, which when we do a lot of on this show, not to pat ourselves on the back too hard, but I mean, we're pretty good at it. Like there's a science to it, right? Like it's supporting evidence. You're creating a case like a trial lawyer. With guessing where a guy's going to go, it's like playing roulette. Like it's really just luck. There's no science to it.
It really is.
Yeah. And the other thing I was going to say is I'm pretty sure of the top teams on the list of where D-Hop's going to go, like, is it going to be New England? Is it going to be the Titans? Is it going to be Cleveland? Is it going to be the Panthers? Is it going to be Kansas City? Is it going to be Buffalo? I think we've seen all six of those teams at one point or another this summer be the minus money, plus money odds at some point. And it's just kind of been a rotating carousel, right? And the Titans just happen to be at the front now, but 2 weeks ago we spent like a week or two with New England being like minus 500 favorites. I do think that the moment, like at least the narrative momentum is shifting towards. We on this show have been on a real roller coaster with D-Hop, because at the very outset of this, it's like I don't think they're going to be interested. And then, I think they are kind of a lot interested. And then like a week or two ago, we were like, I kind of think that was fool's gold. And now we're like the kombucha girl, that gif where she's like, she drinks it and she's like, no. That's what the D-Hop situation is on this show.
But like we've never been like wildly making a take. I feel like
it's going to happen. Like, I'm so confident.
I feel like I heard Jared Stillman yesterday be like, DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a Titan. That is my final take. And I was like, I'm so glad I don't have to go out there and make these takes because I feel like on this show, at least,
it's his job, you see, to say outlandish, definitive things to get you to be upset. So like naturally, the clown has to do the clown
thing. But I feel like we have always been on this show that it is a 20 to maybe 20, like anywhere between 15% and 25% probability.
Sure.
That DeAndre Hopkins, I don't think we've ever strayed, but I think the bottom line to get back to the odds of this is that, yes, the momentum is kind of the narrative momentum is kind of peaking once again at a good time, I would say, unless KC makes a Chris Jones signing and money gets put around and then they become the clear favorites right at the buzzer. But like the momentum is going the right way.
Like, oh, the Chris Jones signing, it's going to create cap space. The problem, and Zach Lyons over at Stacking the Inbox and a football show and Football and Other Efforts, he's done a good job of making this clear this week, and it's true. It's less about them needing cap space and much more about them needing the liquidity of cash right now, like cash on hand to put in his pocket. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Hunt family, they don't really have that right now. That's the issue with them. They don't have cash to give. So I can I update my like percentages on that? Because I do think it's increased at this point, not because I'm more confident he'll be a Titan, but more because I think when we said about 20, like maybe a 1/4 chance he's a Titan about 2 or 3 weeks ago, that was because I just figured a lot would change between then and when I expected him to look to sign around training camp, which we're getting very close to, less than 2 weeks now. Now that we're close, like we're here almost, I think that the situation has kind of come into focus a little bit for me. And personally, I think if you were to say odds he signs with the Titans or the Patriots versus the field, I would say he's a Titan or a Patriot this season, like 75 to 80% likely. Like I think there's a 75 to 80% chance he's on one of those two teams and a 20-ish% chance he's somewhere else. That being so, within that framework, I think that it's kind of a coin flip to me. Like maybe the Titans have a slight edge, like 45-35. So like I'd say the Titans right now maybe have like a 40 to 45% chance, maybe a 50% chance they land D-Hop. That's really as high as I'm willing to go before he signs a paper somewhere, like sign a contract, DeAndre.
You're thinking? I think so. I'd probably give it like a 70% chance that we see DeAndre Hopkins at Nissan Stadium late August for the third preseason game.
Exactly. Yes.
That's my take.
There's a much more likely than not he will be a member of the Patriots or the Titans in that week 3 preseason game. Which team?
Yes.
Flip a coin, but I don't know.
Yep.
Right now, I'd say probably the Titans are leading narratively, but 2 weeks ago, I'd say the Patriots are, and I could tell you a week from now, it could easily be the Patriots again. Who knows? Okay. I do also, before we move on from D-Hop, I've seen a couple people as that odds line moved, that news came out. A lot of national folks in fantasy media, in national NFL media, they were dismayed with the idea. Like, there's a lot of please not let this be true. I don't want him to be in Tennessee for a number of reasons. I saw one person being upset because they in their dynasty leagues, or I guess they're a fantasy guru. They advise a lot of people on these things. They want to be right. Naturally, sure. They've been really advising folks like, hey, great dynasty sleepers, Chigakonkwo, Traylon Burks. He's like, that might kind of torpedo that, which I can understand that being frustrating. Personally, I kind of think that's not going to be the case. I think that if D-Hop comes here, those two are still going to get theirs. I mean, less, but I don't think I don't think whether Chigakonkwo has a breakout season or is a fine tight end hinges on whether DeAndre Hopkins is on this team. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that they're going to try to use D-Hop if and when they sign him as that wide receiver 1B / wide receiver 2, let Traylon continue to progress and just maybe kind of as a Traylon, we want you to be the one. D-Hop's he's going to be your training wheels. He's going to take a little bit of the heat off you this first full season being the one. We'll let you kind of get acclimated to it. And then from there, the idea is you can take over and be the one going forward. You have thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, I'd be a liar if I said I didn't see a lot of this fantasy guru things going around. And it's really funny to me because I feel like there are like 2 shows that I listen to that I feel like I'd accurately like give like value to that if they were saying something about the Titans and D-Hop's impact, because I feel like nobody else really pays attention to what's going on here. So like,
I know they don't. I know for a fact they do not. Yeah.
I think it to be honest, I feel like it probably would impact Kyle Phillips volume more than it would actually impact Treylon Burks.
I think down the wide receiver depth chart, that's where it's going to feel the most.
Yeah, I mean, because fantasy wise, I feel like we saw a little bit in a very, very small sample size that I feel like Treylon Burks would become the Marquise Hollywood Brown to D-Hop in this Tennessee Titans offense. Now, what does that do to guys like Kyle Phillips and Chris Moore? I don't know, but we saw. I mean,
down. Yeah.
It shoves them down. So, as we've been saying, Kyle Phillips is going to be great this entire offseason. Probably not going to get as much volume as he would have, which is not a terrible thing because he has not proven to stay on the field. So maybe not asking him to do everything might,
at the very least, you don't live or die by Kyle Phillips anymore. You don't have to have it, right?
But before, I mean, to say that Chigakonkwo is not going to still get his cut is pretty crazy to me. Because before Zach Ertz tore his ACL last season, he was a top 8 fantasy tight end. Like he was still putting up 14 to 15 points a game. So I don't really buy into a bunch of that.
No, I agree. The other thing that I've seen a lot of people say is like trying to warn D-Hop through the digital media. Don't fall for it, D-Hop. You're going to become the next Julio Jones, Randy Moss, Andre Johnson, former Titans washed king. And that's how you're going to be remembered at the end of your career. Don't go to that elephant graveyard, which from a national perspective, I can understand. Like again, from like a baby pool, shallow level of understanding of the Titans. But we've talked about this before. There's a pretty significant difference between just the most recent guys, right? In Julio Jones, who was the only guy on that list that you can really accurately compare. Because like Randy Moss, do we want to go back and look at the situation he had around him? Like who was throwing the football to him, how old he was, where he was at in his career, what kind of season he was coming off of. Like dude was for sure, like it was done. It was over. It was GG's. Just the Tennessee Titans wanted to have him because he's Randy Moss, right? Naturally, you just put him on the team. Kind of the same deal with Andre Johnson, former Texans great. Definitely was pretty washed up by that point. You could tell in that season with the Titans, like he just, he had given up as well. Like it was over. With Julio, that wasn't really the case. And he's the only guy you can accurately compare because he was in this, in this system under Mike Vrabel with Ryan Tannehill throwing the ball, a lot of the same-ish pieces around him. And the way that I look back on the Julio situation is less that the Titans have made a mistake of bringing him in for his ability. Like when I think back to that Seattle game in week 2. I think back to a handful of other games, but that was really the only complete game we saw from Julio. That's when AJ Brown was out. I forget for what reason, but Julio kind of ran the show. I think he had, off the top of my head, 128 yards and a touchdown in that game on like 10 or 11, 8, 9, 10, 11 receptions, something like that. Very solid wide receiver 1 game from Julio Jones. And we saw flashes of that throughout the season when he was on the field. The problem is he was never on the field, right? Like he just could not stay healthy. Those 32, 33-year-old hamstrings, once they go, they go. That's just the way that it works. With DeAndre Hopkins, that's not really, we've not seen that from him. Last year, he came back. He missed time due to a PED suspension, obviously, in the first half of the season. Then when he came back, he was on pace for a 1,400-yard season as a receiver and was the bona fide one in that offense. Then missed a couple games to injury at the end of the year, which, again, we're not in that room. Like, we have to make guesses on this, but it sure seemed like, and the things you hear about make it definitely seem like the Cardinal season was over. He was just, kind of phoning it in for the rest of the season, like just gonna, not gonna push it. He probably could have played in some, if not all of that time that he missed at the very end of the season, but it was over. So what's the point? He's a veteran. He's trying to continue the longevity of his career and not do anything stupid. So and he's had 1 or 2 major injuries in like a decade of playing. So the situation is just different to me. I think that in our buddy Sean Calderon, who's written and done some stuff with the Broadway in the past, he tweeted out earlier today, the Bernie Sanders, I am once again asking you to stop comparing the Andre Johnson and Randy Moss situations to DeAndre Hopkins. It makes no effing sense. If you want to bring up Julio, fine. But are the Titans supposed to just stop trying because it didn't work with one guy? Which is a fair point in my opinion. JT, what say you?
I think so. I mean,
I think it's different.
I think it's different. And I think the Julio kind of ordeal is a lot different because of how he was acquired. I think has to play a factor into it as well. Like, you were directly giving up capital and taking on a bad contract that you were still kind of paying for, versus kind of setting your own terms and not giving up any capital for a guy who probably is still has more to give than Julio Jones. Right. Personally. So I think all of that just kind of combines into making the Julio Jones topic just a very hot commodity, and that there was just so many things that just went wrong with the situation that I mean, it's fair to say, but like, yeah, I would not put the precedent of a 75-year-old Andre Johnson or
75-year-old. Yeah, that's about how old. Yeah, that's about what it was.
They're just super old. Or Randy Moss on this situation.
I also think the last thing on this, if you read the tea leaves, and you know this because you've been a Falcons fan for part of your life, like when Julio was headed out of Atlanta, there was a lot of Falcons insiders, Falcons fans that were like, "Good luck, Titans, with that guy. Like, he's never gonna be on the field. Like, we have seen this, and it's only getting worse at the end of his career.
A fourth round pick for
felt like
Julio at that time was
highway robbery.
It was.
Yeah.
It was very interesting.
DeAndre, first of all, the reason they're moving off of him is because of the contract and the situation from that team where they're tearing it down to the studs. They're starting over. They're going to be no good. And you've heard some from Cardinals fans on, message boards and insiders on Twitter and all of these things. They talk a lot about, like, well, he's not going to practice much. That's really the only knock that I have heard. Like, he doesn't, I don't think he likes to practice. It's going to get annoying. He might be on the injury report as a limited participant all week long for most weeks. But they're not saying that he wasn't a productive player on Sundays, because he was a productive player on Sundays. That's not really a gripe. Whereas with Julio, that was kind of the situation. All right, let's move on. Right before we recorded today's show, JT, you let me know. I missed this. Quinnen Williams up in New York with the Jets, a future star of Hard Knocks, by the way. Hilarious that they're forcing the Jets to do that. Can't wait for Aaron Rodgers to be forced to do that and tell us all about ayahuasca and how 9/11 wasn't real. He got his contract. Do you have the details of that pulled up?
Yeah, I do. So at least the details that we know right now, Ian Rappaport about 20 minutes ago or so, tweeted out that the Jets and All-Pro defensive tackle Quinnen Williams agreed to terms on a 4-year, $96 million mega deal, the largest second contract ever for a defensive tackle, sources say. Williams gets $66 million in guarantees in the deal, negotiated by his agent Nicole Lynn.
Yeah, and this is just the only reason I bring it up is because that directly is in contrast with the Jeffrey Simmons contract that the Titans got done earlier this season. This, boys and girls, is why you want to sign your stars earlier on in the offseason cycle than later, because you'd prefer to set the market than to have to reset the market like the Jets had to do with Williams. Both of those guys were the number 1 and number 2 big interior defensive linemen coming into this offseason that needed new contracts. With Jeffrey Simmons, his contract, $94 million, $66 million guarantee. So remind me, is that the same as what Quinnen got in terms of guarantees?
He had 66 million guaranteed.
Okay, so both have 66 guaranteed. Williams has $2 million more on his total contract just to get that title. Second highest, the highest, if we forget Aaron Donald exists, contract for a defensive tackle. So good for him. The Jets needed to do it. God knows the last thing, what's worse than having a contract dispute in August with a star? Having it on Hard Knocks while you do it. That's not what you want to do. I wonder if that played any role in it. Like, if they were like, we'll slow play this, we don't need him at training camp, we'll see. And then the NFL's like, hey, by the way, you have to do Hard Knocks. And they just scramble like, oh God, please, no, we can't. We're not talking about this for a month on Hard Knocks on HBO. Last thing before we get out of here, JT, we are once again going to become the Warren Sharp Read podcast, because Warren Sharp is continuing to put out bits and pieces, little nuggets of information from his fantastic season preview book, where he does all of this data and analytics and research and compiling stats and framing things in a way that makes sense for us. He put out a list on Twitter earlier today ranking the offensive lines in the NFL 1 through 32, and then a link to an article where he breaks down his reasoning and the data and statistics behind his list. Unshockingly, the Tennessee Titans offensive line falls at number 32 of 32, all the way at the bottom of the list, behind teams like the Rams at 31, the Commanders, the Bucks, the Jaguars, I think might surprise some people, all the way down at 28. Other AFC South folks on this list, let's see, you've got the Colts at 18, right there at average, slightly below average, and the Texans right behind him at 19, again, average, slightly below average. Although I'd say I'm kind of bullish on the Texans offensive line this year. I think that they may kind of round into form. I think they got the ingredients at least. We'll see if it makes a delicious offensive line pie. If not, it will just be classic Texans. All I have to say on that is this. Like, people are talking about it like, oh, this is unbelievable. Titans offensive line is going to be bad again, as if it's just funny to me when people see this and they act like their opinion of the line is going to change this year based on what one person said on July 13th. Like, well, if Warren said they're going to be the worst, I'd been hearing they were going to be way better. I guess they're just going to be the worst. My response is, like, when the only known-ish quantity on your offensive line in Nicholas Petit-Frere gets suspended for 6 games, and the rest of the offensive line, while they're all varying levels of promising, which we've talked about at depth on this show, they are, in fact, all just projections until we actually see it on the field. Like, yeah, that's how it's going to work. You're going to be at the bottom. Like, you don't have any known quantity on this offensive line to start the year. You don't have any known chemistry. You got a brand new guys across the board, plus a brand new young offensive line coach. Where's he supposed to put him on the list? Where? I think that's the correct
would say
place for now. And then
I would say, hey, at least you got top 32, right?
Top 32 is one way to frame it. All right, that is going to wrap it up for our incredibly ragtag episode. The bad news is this episode was, I mean, we really just had to pull it together and make it out of bits and pieces, like a horrible quilt that your grandmother makes for you. And you're like, thanks. So this is us, Grandma Hot Read Podcast, giving you this quilt, and please pretend to enjoy it.
Socks for Christmas.
This is socks for Christmas. The good news is, people, JT and I were looking at the schedule before we record this episode. I'm relatively positive that this is going to be the last questionable substance episode before, like, next May. I think that we have either plans for or are just going to have, regular season content to dive into at length, starting on Monday all the way through until the end of the season and through the end of the draft season, really, when the show becomes kind of a different situation. So excited about that. Can't wait. Like you said, 12 days until OTAs. Just a couple things here at the end before we go, in case anybody has just, not been listening to the show, just tuning in for the first time after taking some summer break from the show. We have got a partnership with Zen Sportsbook, the newest sportsbook here in the state of Tennessee. And we've done a lot of research and talking to the folks over there. Really fond of what they're doing. They have this philosophy that they think that what most sports books do with their free bets, or matching your free bets, or matching up to $100 on your first $100 bet, or a cash back on your first bet, no matter what, if you win or lose, they think it's silly. And they're right. Like, as seasoned bettors like we are, JT, we know that those are funny money promises. They are free bets and vouchers and cash back that is not actually money in your pocket. It's like Chuck E. Cheese tokens. Like, here's your value back, but you have to spend it on us. So good luck. That's not what Zen Sportsbook's doing. They are doing 5% cash back. And when I say cash back, I mean you have a bank account style wallet within the app that you create when you sign up that is kind of like a crypto or a stock exchange wallet. It's not to scare people off. It's not a crypto wallet. It's similar in that way to like a stock exchange wallet where you have an account with them that you can cash in and cash out of whenever you choose. And they are doing, when you sign up with our code, when you sign up, you got a referral code. That's when you want to put in our code HOTPOD, HOTPOD. You put in code HOTPOD, and that is how you get 5% welcome back cash bonus in your pocket. And JT, you don't have to win the bets. It's on your betting volume. So win or lose, you're getting that 5% cash back welcome bonus for the first 15 days. After that, is the bonus over? No. Then you get 3% cash back until you're dead and gone. And your relatives now run your account, and then they can get 3% cash back. That's what they're doing for you over at Zen Sportsbook. When you sign up using code HOTPOD, HOTPOD, we like the people over there. We like the product that they've got. And we love that they are putting cash back in your pockets, not making these phony, hollow, funny money promises to encourage you to come sign up. So check them out, Zen Sportsbook. They're on the Apple Store. They're on Google, the Google Store, the Google Play Store, Android. You're going to find the app, whatever mobile device or computer you use. Zen Sportsbook, code HOTPOD, HOTPOD. With that, JT, we will bid adieu to our friends and fans. We'll talk to you guys on Monday, potentially doing one of our AFC South roundup shows. If not, that'll be on Thursday. And then on Monday, we'll do something different that I've got planned on the back burner here that I think is an interesting topic. Until then, for producer JT, I'm your host, Easton Freeze. This has been the Hot Read Podcast. Cannot wait. Football season is right around the corner. We'll talk to you on Monday.